Mark, you've just come from the last race of 2011 in Singapore, and you've just announced your calendar and season for next year. Tell us a bit about what's going to happen next year.
I think it's probably evolution rather than revolution for us for in 2012. We're going to stay with a few of the venues we've had in 2011 that have been very successful. And then we have introduced 2 new countries, Brazil and Portugal, which we're very excited about. We finished the year in Brazil, and all good really. We're going to go 8 events, 4 days each event, 3 continents. We've got a great set of teams lined up, which we'll announce in the new year. We're going to build on the things we worked pretty hard on this year. We invested a lot this year in new inventory, new elements, new ways we were racing. And we just need to carry that forward and consolidate that in 2012.
And what were some of the highlights of this year? You've dabbled with live streaming. You've done all sorts of different things this year. What were some of the big highlights for you guys?
Yeah, I suppose one of our problems is, the level of resource we've got. We can't do everything everywhere and all at the level we'd like to do. So we've tried a lot of different things. I think probably the event that brought a lot of things together really nicely was Istanbul. The brand new venue, so it's always hard the first year in a new venue. But we were city centre. We had East meets West, Europe, Asia, mosques. Call for prayers going off in the background. Lots of different nationalities around. The whole mix of things. We're in a real stadium. We had a great VIP setup, we had great VIP attendance, and public-wise, we started with low public on the first day, and then by the final day we had a great public attendance. We had live TV straight from F1 in Monaco, straight to a full live TV broadcast on TRT, national TV, which went across 8 countries. So kind of just brought all those different elements together, which is hard to do at every venue, and certainly in the first year. So that was a nice one for us, and we hope to obviously build on that for next year. Although I think we just do all these different amazing events in different places. Got a few different things. China, to do an event in China, quite frankly, is one of the biggest challenges I think any event company can do. So that was a real mission and worked in the end very well. Looking forward to developing that one in the future. Boston, everyone says sailing doesn't work in the States. We went there July the 4th weekend. We had a great public, really engaged. I think we did show that sailing can work commercially in the US. Tough one for us to repeat in 2012. From a financial perspective, but really happy we did that one. That was a strategic move. And then to finish the year in Singapore, which was again a strategic investment for us. We went to Singapore without really the financial support of the local government this time, but phenomenal, and just remind ourselves of how not the world is changing, but how the world has changed. Singapore is a hub for business and a hub from a networking perspective and a hub for Asia. Absolutely fantastic destination, and one that we plan to be back at the beginning of 2013. So all in all, the whole year was exceptional. It was tiring. I think we made some decisions which were wrong in terms of number of days in some of the venues, and we had a very tight shipping schedule. We created quite a lot of extra stress for ourselves in going in that big move, going global. But for me, there isn't any doubt we need to be a global circuit. We're not leaving Europe behind, but there isn't any doubt that the future lies in our circuit, in developing and maintaining the non-European side, looking after our European stakeholders along the way. But times have changed; they're not changing; they've changed, and I think we're very well positioned as a commercial sailing product, very well positioned for the future in that respect.
And in terms of your products sell to teams at your budget level. Is there still a big demand for teams to be part of the series?
I think we are really well positioned on the team budget level. Next year, the cost will come down again next year. The cost for a team next year to be competitive, all-inclusive, boats, salaries, everything else, without any crazy salaries in there, is something like €650,000. Now, per venue,
which for a global series is pretty good value for money per event.
8 events, 3 continents. As long as the markets fit the sponsor, or some of them fit the sponsor looking at, that's pretty good. But even that, the TV footprint we have now, which we've grown year after year, means that it doesn't. The event in China is nonetheless in 40 odd countries as well. At some level. So it's not even just about where the events are. So I think the package is very good. There aren't that many sponsors in sailing, so it's not like you don't have 20 boats all queued up, signed to come in. We only want 8, but when you shoot for 8 teams, it's always a bit difficult because you find yourself at some point with only 4 or 5, and actually you can't fit 10 or 12. So it's not that simple. I think in the future, I'd love to move to some kind of franchise model where you've got more commitment for 3 or 4 year periods and things. So that would be better, but it is what it is today. We've got some great committed teams. Got some teams that have signed 3-year deals of their own with their sponsors. Next year we'll have 5 I think we'll have 5 teams from this year, 5 or 6 teams from this year, and 2 to 4 new teams and some wildcards that will do some of the season as a build-up to 2013. We have a lot of requests for it. On the team front, obviously it's hard for anyone to nail their budgets today.
Closing the deal is always the hard bit.
And it's never been harder for certainly European-based things. And I think we are in a real transition between, things have clearly moved outside of Europe, and the dynamics, any dynamic activity from a company, any new market spend, any development spend, these things are not really happening in Europe right now, and I don't think they're going to happen at all, quite frankly, in the future. So the difficulty is that sponsorship is still a relatively less mature discipline in Asia. There's more conservative, people are more conservative about even going on the water, for example, but they're conservative about a lot of things and new projects, things that are not mainstream, let's say. But at the same time, there's a big aspirational value to sailing that absolutely works. See it in Singapore, absolutely extraordinary. People are looking for those things which are different, but it's going to take time in this sort of switch between where the funding comes from the sport. And it interested both at a private owner level as well as the commercial side. It's the same transition that's going on. So I suppose we find ourselves in the middle of that transition, and you've got to just make your moves at the right timing, and that's both on an event front and on a team front. But at the end of the day, from a commercial perspective, the team package. When I look at other things you can do in sailing that are into 7 figures and millions, and we've been involved in a lot of those, and would like to stay involved in a lot of those Vendée Globe campaigns, Volvo Ocean races, and things. They will still sit there way above us in cost terms and scale perhaps, but actually we've got something which is either a good stepping stone into the sport, a good stepping stone down for a sponsor that's already in the sport but simply can't justify the same level of spend, and equally from a host venue and host city point of view that actually does want to showcase the waterfront and the beauty of their city. We've got a great product which continues to attract people. So I think it's a great product. 5 years in, and I still, we battle fatigued a bit sometimes. From 5 years of it, it's a fairly insane schedule, month after month, an event, pretty well. But you still, when you go to somewhere like Singapore and you just see people engaged in it in relatively light wind conditions, and you see a hull fly and you see everybody with their cameras up, everybody running over to look and watch. The basic ingredients of the product are absolutely still work, are absolutely right. And it plays, I think, on what sailing will have to play on a lot more in the future, which is the experiential side. When people go sailing, Knut says it on the Volvo, we know it. It's DNA of Extreme Sailing Series is getting people on the water. It's transformational in terms of their view of the sport, and we've got to keep that side of it as a fundamental of what we do. We've got to enhance it. I think we've got to get more people out sailing, to make it work. Whilst doing all those things, making sure sporting-wise it's absolutely hardcore sporting competition and sporting equity isn't compromised in any way, which I think this year has proven we've done in a very big way. It's been an amazing competition on the water. So always a difficult balance between all those things, but so far so good. We'll go into year 6 in good shape after a lot of investment in year 5.